7 News investigating the Lower North Fork fire. It started as a prescribed burn last March in Jefferson County, claiming 3 lives and destroying 23 homes before it was finally brought under control. 7 News reporter Marshall Zellinger has been asking questions from the start about what went wrong. And Marshall, you just finished looking at the fire zone with a special commission.
And for the first time, we see the origin of the Lower North Fork fire, where it slopped over and went out of control after the state was burning chopped up trees just like this. Well, in 30 minutes, residents who went on that tour and experienced the fire firsthand will be here at Conifer High School, where they're going to give their own presentation of investigative findings to the Lower North Fork Fire Commission.
Our house is next door, on the next peak up. Our house was.
Jeannie Hoover lost her home in the Lower North Fork fire. It was to the left of this home still standing. Go even more to the left, to the next ridge, that's where Sam and Linda Lucas lived. Also, Ann Apple, the 3 who were killed in March when a prescribed burn reignited and went out of control.
There was an expectation that when it got across that drainage, if it did, that it would go up this first hill fairly quickly and then slow down.
Elk Creek Fire Chief Bill McLaughlin gave us a tour of the origin, showing the legislative members of the Lower North Fork Wildfire Commission what they're investigating. I'm standing in part of the Lower North Fork fire that should not have burned. This is the slop over of the prescribed burn. While fire crews were trying to contain it here, they set up a trigger point at the bottom of the ravine. If the fire got to the bottom, they were going to evacuate the homes at the top of that farthest ridge. It should have been 2.5 hours worth of time. Instead, once fire got there, it made it to that far ridge in 12 minutes.
There's no reason that you have to burn.
Residents who came along on the tour understandably emotional, questioning the need to chip apart the trees with a machine and burning the bark instead of chopping the trees down and hauling them away.
These guys came here to give us literally the lay of the land, and let's let them do that and then express your concerns to us tonight, and we'll do our best to take that back and reshape policy.
The public hearing begins at 5:30 tonight. Residents, I'm told, will show a PowerPoint presentation with some investigative findings from their own open records request. I'm told they think they have found enough that shows the state was more negligent in the fire than previously reported so far. We'll update at 10. Reporting live, Marshall Zellinger, 7 News.
All right, we'll talk to you then. Thank you, Marshall.
My parents had a home on Kester. That home was completely destroyed, and they were also completely destroyed by the fire.
The Lower North Fork fire killed his parents, and today Sam Lucas and other victims walk the area where that fire started. 7 News reporter Marshall Zellinger investigating the fire since it started. Marshall, residents finding out tonight compensation and accountability could be a long way off.
And at a meeting here tonight at Conifer High School, the victims are told that compensation won't happen anytime in the near future. The reason, insurance companies have already sued the state, meaning any payout to a victim will have to wait until that court case with the insurance company can be heard. Another delay for these victims still seeking responsibility for the fire.
It's personally devastating to have to stand here tonight, 4 months after the fire, when there's been no accountability.
You'll remember Kim Olson. Her family shot this video as they escaped the Lower North Fork fire on March 26th. Now she and the other victims of the fire still seeking responsibility from the state.
What is adequate and sufficient restitution for things that have been taken that cannot be returned?
Residents spent all day with lawmakers who make up the Lower North Fork Wildfire Commission. The day started at the Capitol, then took a field trip to the spot where the prescribed burn reignited and spread. I'm standing in part of the Lower North Fork fire that should not have burned. This is the slop over of the prescribed burn. While fire crews were trying to contain it here, they set up a trigger point at the bottom of the ravine. If the fire got to the bottom, they were going to evacuate the homes at the top of that farthest ridge. It should have been 2.5 hours worth of time. Instead, once fire got there, it made it to that far ridge in 12 minutes.
Unfortunately, what happened with the winds and everything is when the fire crested that hill, it just threw embers right onto the bottom of the next hill, and it ran right up that one, and it just kept doing that.
Residents used this presentation to prove the prescribed burn never should have happened, but the commissioners told them it's not their role to find blame. Scott Apple, who lost his wife in the fire, asked the commissioners why these log chips had to be burned that week in March. The commission likely not going to answer that, saying they're only charged with making future policy changes, and residents still looking for someone to be punished for the state-caused fire. Live in Conifer, Marshall Zellinger, 7 News.
7 News investigating what went wrong with the lower North Fork fire. It started as a prescribed burn last March in Jefferson County, claiming 3 lives and destroying 23 homes before it was finally brought under control. Well, in just the past 2 hours, people who live in the area telling a state commission more should have been done sooner.
We needed rapid action, and we didn't get it. And my friends died, and my community is in shatters.
Live at the Capitol now, and Amanda, you've discovered the scope of this goes far beyond lower North Fork.
Today, a fire chief telling lawmakers at the Capitol that the state is not equipped, not prepared to handle the next major wildfire, pointing to the same issues 7 News first uncovered in our investigations of the lower North Fork wildfire.
We used to walk in a beautiful mountain community. Now we walk where everything we loved is died.
Destruction, ashes, the lower North Fork community grieving, rebuilding, and tired of all the talking.
We would like to see them take more rapid action about this before more fires happen and more neighbors are killed.
The Elk Creek fire chief echoing that urgency, telling state lawmakers on the commission that an overhaul of the wildfire response system is overdue.
It basically has to be something where when that phone call is made, the resources roll.
Not the case in the lower North Fork fire. In our investigation, 7 News discovered breakdowns in communication and delay after delay in getting crucial help in the firefight.
Obviously, it wasn't a very responsive system. And what was even worse about it is that we had no communication.
Mobilization issues still a problem. Proof just 3 months later in June, when the High Park wildfire was raging. Elk Creek firefighters were dispatched to a small fire in Wyoming instead.
And we drove right past the High Park fire, despite the fact that at that time they were dispatching engines from California and Idaho to go to that fire. So obviously, we've got issues at how we get resources to major events in this state.
We're asking when all this talk will turn into some sort of action. Well, this committee here at the Capitol, they've been charged with ensuring that nothing like the lower North Fork wildfire happens again. Now, these legislators have until October 1st to move any drafted legislation in and out of the committee. Reporting live from the Capitol, Amanda Cost, 7 News.
All right, Amanda. Only on 7 News, it's a dirty job, and they want to know why they have to do it. It's 6 months now since the lower North Fork fire, and 7 News reporter Marshall Zellinger went to Jefferson County, where families who lost everything are still looking for the state's help.
They had a lot of chainsaws going out here today.
I do it because I have to do it because nobody else is going to do it.
This is a dirty job.
The black and ash is unavoidable.
Sweat kind of gets wiped, and you know, we aren't out here for a beauty contest.
Survivors of the lower North Fork fire, like Tom Scanlon, Andy Hoover, and Scott Apple, spend much of their time dirty cleaning their property.
It should have already been done by the State Forest Service. They started the damn fire, and it's their responsibility, it's their obligation to clean up after themselves.
Who should be doing this cleanup?
Well, I think it should be the Forest Service.
7 News contacted the Colorado State Forest Service. We were told because of pending lawsuits, no one could comment. Those lawsuits are not from fire victims, rather insurance companies and a power company looking to be reimbursed due to the fire.
We're trying from the Office of Emergency Management to secure the resources and the funding directly to Jefferson County so that they can provide the assistance to the families.
Mickey Trost from the Office of Emergency Management tells 7 News just today $300,000 was secured for reforestation of the lower North Fork area. She did not yet know if that meant money to help clear forest areas before restoring them.
Marshall, I guess what we're looking for is just somebody to step up and do what's right and help us out while we're helping ourselves.
In Jefferson County, Marshall Zellinger, 7 News.
7 News always investigating the lower North Fork Fire Commission meeting for the last time tomorrow. And 7 News finding out it hasn't investigated the fire itself. Marshall Zellinger live at the Capitol tonight. Marshall, you discovered the commission members are not in agreement.
Tonight, I spoke with one of those commission members, Representative Sherry Giroux. She's one of the lawmakers here at the Capitol who actually helped create the commission. And after asking questions about what the commission has actually investigated, I found that what it's going to reveal at its final meeting tomorrow is not what she set out to achieve.
We do have a duty to determine exactly what happened and how it happened.
That was Governor John Hickenlooper on May 3rd, announcing a Lower North Fork Fire Commission to investigate the causes of the fire and to make recommendations to prevent a similar tragedy. The main thing the commission was supposed to do was investigate the cause of the wildfire. Has it?
Not in my mind, no, it hasn't.
State Representative Sherry Giroux helped create the commission she sits on. It has met 4 times, inside the Capitol and in Jefferson County, standing where the fire got out of control. Was this commission a waste of time, resources, and money?
This commission was a frustration. It wasn't what I hoped it would be.
This weekend, we found survivors of the fire clearing dead trees from their property. They want to know why the State Forest Service isn't cleaning up the mess it caused when a prescribed burn reignited and destroyed this land, nearly 24 homes, and killed 3.
The state has adopted an attitude where it's okay if I burn down your house. It's okay if I take your wife's life. It's okay if I take your grandparents' life, but I'm not going to take any responsibility.
Should the final report from this commission state the Colorado State Forest Service is to blame for the Lower North Fork fire?
Oh, I think it should. That's what the declaration of the bill says.
Will it?
I don't know. I don't know. We'll see tomorrow. If I have anything to do with it, it will, but I don't have a lot of hope.
Tomorrow, we'll hear the final conclusions of the commission. One is a bill that would double the governmental immunity cap from $600,000 to $1.2 million. Another is a bill that will suggest that prescribed burns in Colorado start up again, but with precautionary measures. 7 News will be at that committee hearing tomorrow, asking the rest of the commission why it hasn't investigated the fire. Reporting live, Marshall Zellinger, 7 News.
7 News investigating the Lower North Fork fire and the commission that's supposed to be getting answers. The fire started after a prescribed burn last March, killing 3 people and destroying 23 homes before it was put out. Well, 7 News reporter Amanda Koss at the Capitol right now, where it got intense as the commission met for the last time today. Amanda?
And tension not only between lawmakers on the Lower North Fork Fire Commission inside the Capitol today, but tension from those victims, those who were impacted by the Lower North Fork fire. They're saying this stack of drafted legislation just doesn't cut it. The Lower North Fork wildfire started as a prescribed burn ignited by the State Forest Service, then left unpatrolled the day before it escaped, killing 3, destroying 22 homes, and charring more than 4,000 acres. Now, 6 months later.
Annoyed, furious that the charge of this commission is being avoided.
Frustration directed at the Lower North Fork Fire Commission during the final hearing.
I'm really disappointed to see legislation on the fly,
sparking tension within the commission.
Mr. Scanlon, please, this is
Madam Chair,
Representative Giroux out of order. Mr.
Madam
Scanlon,
Chair,
this is
the public
on
deserves a chance to
Representative
testify.
Giroux, would
Madam
you please,
Chair.
No, please stop, Representative Giroux.
You're making a mockery of the word investigation once again. Thank you.
House Bill 1352 created the commission to, quote, investigate the causes of the wildfire and to make recommendations for legislative or other action that would prevent the occurrence of a similar tragedy.
The reason we've devoted our time to this is to try and protect our neighbors from the kinds of things that happen to us. And the legislation that has been provided in this context doesn't do any of that.
Not to the extent of fully investigating all the decisions that were made regarding the prescribed burn. No, we haven't done that.
Have you guys really investigated this wildfire?
I think we have, to the extent that we can as 4 legislators.
And the version of what investigate means differs if you ask the victims of this fire and then 3 of the 4 legislators on the Lower North Fork Fire Commission today. Now, what's next here? They're going to move forward 4 of the 6 drafted legislations forward to the next committee meeting, which will be October 15th. Reporting live at the Capitol, Amanda Kost, 7 News.
A lot of frustration out there. Thank you, Amanda.
$1.3 million from the Wildfire Preparedness Fund will be used to help recovery efforts in the lower North Fork fire burn area. Governor John Hickenlooper announcing that move today. The money could be used to chop down, remove, or mulch burned trees. Now, this comes after 7 News started asking questions about why residents were having to spend their own money for reclamation. Authorities will meet with people in the area to determine the best way to move forward.
7 News always investigating it tonight. The Lower North Fork Fire Commission releasing its final report into the March fire that killed 3 and burned 22 homes. But 7 News finding it's missing a key section. 7 News reporter Marshall Zellinger investigating since last March. Marshall, the commission never identified who caused the fire.
And that was among the issues that the commission was supposed to investigate. That commission, made up of lawmakers, has released its final report, some of which I'm holding here. It makes recommendations about wildfires in general, but it's pretty quiet on the specific fire it was supposed to investigate, that being the Lower North Fork fire. The Lower North Fork Fire Commission toured the origin of the fire in August. Between June and September, the commission met 5 times. Early this evening, the commission released 58 pages of recommendations and potential legislation. I've read through this. Am I missing where the commission talked about the cause of the wildfire?
No, you're not missing it. In fact, that was part of my frustration. That was part of the frustration of the victims of the wildfire.
Republican Representative Sherry Giroux disagrees with the findings from the commission she sat on. Did the commission not talk about the cause of the wildfire because the state's being sued?
That was the elephant in the room, and nobody ever really talked about that.
132 claims have been filed, and the state's claims board has yet to consider any as promised in a bill signed by Governor John Hickenlooper in June. The commission made recommendations on how to improve wildfire mitigation, forest health funding, emergency notifications, and how much to increase the state's liability.
By bringing up these separate issues, we're still ignoring the fact that the state was responsible for the fire, and they're not dealing with that responsibility.
7 News obtained a letter sent to victims last month. The chair of the commission, Senator Ellen Roberts, wrote, quote, "Given the very limited resources provided by the legislature and the time constraints, the commission did produce substantive legislative proposals based on lessons learned." Now, none of the recommendations are in law just yet because they have to go through the legislative process here at the Capitol, and that session begins on Wednesday. Reporting live in downtown Denver, Marshall Zellinger, 7 News.
Only on 7 News, broken promises to victims of the Lower North Fork fire.
Not a penny. And the fire was 11 months ago today.
Now, tomorrow, state lawmakers will debate raising the dollar amount for paying victims of state-caused incidents. And tonight, 7 News reporter Marshall Zellinger uncovering how the state has yet to deal with victims of the Lower North Fork fire.
The Lower North Fork burn area, peaceful today, covered in snow. But 11 months ago today, the state-caused fire killed 3 and destroyed nearly 24 homes.
Not $1 to the people that were burned to the ground.
Scott Apple lost his wife Ann in the fire, his home, and everything on his property. The day after 7 News aired a 30-minute special investigating the fire, a compromise was made at the Capitol to help victims avoid going to court and instead have their financial losses heard by a legislative claims board. How soon would this take effect, and how soon could these victims be getting money?
Well, it takes effect immediately, right?
Upon your signature.
Upon my signature, it takes effect. They present their claims to the claims board. It's happening in real time.
Governor and Attorney General promised a legislative process for your claim to be heard. Has your claim been heard yet?
No, it hasn't.
The Attorney General's office has received 95 claims from victims. 7 News is in the process of reviewing them. So far, we've added up more than $30 million being sought by victims.
I think so many people think we've been taken care of. We just want people to know, no, we have not been taken care of. This has not been resolved. We have not been made whole.
Kristen and David also lost their home. They thought their claims would be resolved by now.
The way it feels and the way it looks is it's like they're just stalling, hoping we're just going to go away.
So why haven't the victims been compensated? In this email from the Attorney General's office, I'm told that once the insurance company sued the state, the other victims were lumped into the same lawsuit. Tonight I spoke with Bob Gardner. He authored the law that gave the victims a legislative process to avoid the courts. He tells me he's disappointed and still seeks a faster way for these victims to get paid. Reporting live, Marshall Zellinger, 7 News.
New at 5, nearly 1 year after the lower North Fork fire, the state shocks victims with an unexpected new hurdle to seek compensation. 7 News reporter Marshall Zellinger always investigating. Marshall, the state drawing a line between who they'll settle with and who they'll see in court.
Yeah, Teresa, the state spelled out in this legislation passed last May that the victims of the lower North Fork fire could avoid coming to court altogether and have their claims heard by a state claims board and then approved by the state legislature. Well, the Attorney General's office just a couple of hours ago presented this chart, a visual aid. They presented this in court, and this is essentially the way victims would be able to go through the claims process, not as simple as the victims were promised back in May. 1 year ago today is when the state set the prescribed burn. 4 days later, it was not properly out and escaped, leading to the lower North Fork fire, killing 3 and destroying nearly 24 homes. Victims still have not been paid by the state for losses not covered by insurance. Today in court, the Attorney General's office saying if victims want to seek only economic losses, they can go to that promised state claims board process. If they want to seek non-economic losses, well, that process becomes more complicated.
Actually, I'd like to tell the Attorney General how disgusted I am at the incredible display of chicanery that we saw in the courtroom today.
How does it feel to be back here in the courtroom? Disgusting. It does. It feels, I can't believe that this isn't behind us yet.
So why has the Attorney General kept these victims in court and not let them go through the state claims process as promised by the Attorney General and the governor in this legislation? We wanted to ask him that, but he canceled an interview that we had set up for more than a week, his office citing security concerns. Reporting live in Jefferson County, Marshall Zellinger, 7 News.
It is now 1 year since this destruction, the lower North Fork fire. Nearly 24 homes burned, 3 people killed, Ann Apple and Sam and Linda Lucas. Well, tonight, 7 News always investigating.
I feel the state doesn't value life. I feel that the Attorney General doesn't value life.
Sam Lucas's parents were killed in the fire, and 1 year later, he is no closer to putting the tragedy behind him. 7 News reporter Marshall Zellinger is live. Marshall, the survivors don't consider today an anniversary.
And they're calling it the 1 year mark, and they're marking it with this letter, which I've put on the screen. It details why the survivors spent their 1 year mark at the Capitol. It details how they want justice from the AG, the Attorney General, and how they want restitution with an apology.
I feel the state doesn't value life. I feel that the Attorney General doesn't value life.
Sam Lucas is remembering 2 lives lost in the lower North Fork fire. His parents, Sam and Linda. 1 year later, he's at the state capitol with fire survivors seeking justice from the state.
I'm afraid now that none of these people that have been involved in this from day one will get any compensation.
7 News has learned all claims against the state, including insurance companies seeking to be reimbursed, total $73 million. Could the state have paid $73 million this year?
Yes, the state could have. I'm not sure the state will be able to next year.
State Representative Sherry Giroux sits on the Budget Committee and tells 7 News all the money Colorado has through June 2014 is already spoken for.
There is no money in this budget cycle for the lower North Fork fire victims.
These survivors were promised real-time compensation through a state claims board process. Instead, they've been stuck in court, fighting Attorney General John Suthers to have their claims heard.
I don't believe he deserves to be called a public defender.
We wanted answers from Suthers. Last week, he canceled an interview citing security concerns. Today, through his spokeswoman, we were told he's not available for a Channel 7 interview. For the fire victims, they have no plan of giving up.
I think the fact that you see all these people here today shows you that we're gonna hang on.
This is what the survivors are going through to have their claims heard. This was presented in court on Friday. This first option with the long green line, that's the original process that was promised to these victims back in May. But the Attorney General in court on Friday showing these other possibilities that if these victims want to fight for lost lives, lost wages, punitive damages, they're going to have to go through a more complicated process that they did not realize or were not promised that process back in May. Reporting live, Marshall Zellinger, 7 News.
New tonight, money being put aside to potentially pay claims from the lower North Fork fire. Just a few hours ago, the state Senate approving nearly $3 million to be put in a fund for fire claims. The House needs to approve this as well. Survivors of the lower North Fork fire were promised to have their claims heard by the State Claims Board. Instead, they've been stuck in court. 7 News has learned all claims against the state total about $73 million.
And new tonight, the devastating Lower North Fork fire has moved Colorado lawmakers to take action on when and how controlled burns should happen. The House approving the proposal, which now goes back to the Senate. That fire in Jefferson County last year killed 3 people and destroyed 22 homes.
The following is a special presentation from 7 News.
Daddy, where's Mom? What's she stopping for?
The chaos of a fire burning out of control.
Here. Oh my gosh.
154, I'm in trouble. I'm stuck in my vehicle.
Zuma!
It's okay.
Panic, concern, and confusion.
Is there any fire around you right now?
Daddy.
Oh yeah, there's fire all around me.
As a prescribed burn ignited by the state
Our neighbor's house is burning.
explodes into a wildfire.
We're out.
What were people thinking when they made that decision?
Along the way, major mistakes, a burn plan with problems.
How can the Forest Service follow and exceed the burn plan and violate it at the same time?
Jefferson County 911, where's your emergency?
Communication breakdowns.
Looks like you got that evacuation notice in error, so you can disregard it.
And for some,
This is Sam Lucas.
the message to run.
You know, we've got 79-mile-an-hour winds up here, and they got a control burn.
Coming too late or not at all.
Blowing smoke right over my house.
In the end, 3 people would die.
Look around, and
22 homes destroyed.
somebody has to be responsible for this.
Only 7 News asking the tough questions,
Who's been held accountable for the Lower North Fork fire?
looking for answers,
Did they follow that burn plan?
investigating the fire.
It started as an ordinary prescribed burn, only 50 acres designed to consume what could be fuel for other fires.
However, that innocent burn in a matter of minutes turned deadly. And in the days and hours leading up to the Lower North Fork fire, mistakes and problems plagued everyone, from state forest employees to emergency responders.
7 News reporters Amanda Cost and Marshall Zellinger take us to where it all started.
It's here, where Ann and Scott Apple lived for 22 years. Now all that's left is charred rubble.
It's where Ann was on Monday, March 26, when the Lower North Fork fire roared up this mountainside. It's where she saw smoke coming from down below 4 days earlier when she snapped this photo. The smoke was coming from a Colorado State Forest Service prescribed burn, started on Thursday, March 22nd. 4 days later, it would become the Lower North Fork fire and take Ann Apple's life.
When you talk about losing everything, we did.
Scott Apple, Ann's husband, was out of town when she sent him the photo. Ann was concerned.
And we're always alarmed on that because we never know. We never have a notice. Nobody up here knows what's happening.
The rising smoke caught the attention of others that Thursday afternoon. Another neighbor snapped this photo. Because when you see smoke in the Lower North Fork community, you find out why.
They understand that living in the mountains, we all face this risk.
The views? Stunning.
That's Pikes Peak all the way across to Mount Evans.
The neighborhood? Peaceful.
We built forts, we played in the woods.
The homes? One of a kind.
I can remember the floor in my bedroom. I can remember the colors in the granite counter and the flecks of gold.
Neighbors become closer than friends.
We're a really tight community up here.
Do anything they need.
Photos show the steep terrain of the Lower North Fork area. This is where the prescribed burn took place. The State Forest Service set the burn to get rid of bark and branches from between the trees. The purpose? It was part of a long-standing program by the state agency to reduce the likelihood and impact of a devastating wildfire. The same kind of wildfire the fateful burn would start. Watch on this map as we go from the burn site only 2 miles to the 22 homes that would be destroyed. At 11:29 a.m. on Thursday, March 22nd, the State Forest Service filled out this go, no-go checklist, confirming the burn a go. Paperwork shows on Friday the burn being mopped up. Saturday, the burn area under patrol until 2 p.m. On Sunday, unstaffed. Nothing. Even though a red flag warning was issued to take effect the following day, the prediction, hot temperatures, gusty winds.
The driest March on record in Colorado, especially up here.
On Monday, March 26, the burn reignited, the flames fanned by gusty winds. The State Forest Service noted at 1:40 p.m. the burn slopped over. It was another 20 minutes before this radio traffic.
Stand by for tones responding to Lower North Fork for a slap on a controlled burn.
At 2:12 p.m., the outlook positive.
Right now we have about 1 acre that's burning plus one smaller spot. We have a low spread potential.
At 2:21 p.m., Sam Lucas, who would die in the fire with his wife Linda, called 911 in disbelief.
That is a controlled burn. The Forest Service is out there on scene with that.
You know, we got 79-mile-an-hour winds up here, and they got a controlled burn?
Yes.
Oh, wonderful.
6 minutes later, at 2:27, the fire grows.
Sounds like we got about 5 acres going now. Put another tone out for North Fork. More personnel needed to respond.
At 2:30 p.m., a Jefferson County Sheriff's deputy sees what's about to grab the attention of the entire metro area.
The whole valley's now covered with smoke, so we'll probably get more calls.
Ann Apple watched as the smoke cloud grew. She called her husband.
You know, as the day progressed, she said, well, this smoke is kind of just blown up this way like it has before, so what should I do? And I said, well, as soon as we get off the phone, call 911 and figure out what's going on with it, you know.
Jefferson County 911, what are you reporting?
A fire.
Where at?
It's down along Foxton by the Platte River.
Okay, they do have crews on the way down there.
Ann called 911 at 2:34 p.m. What she and dispatchers did not know, just 4 minutes earlier, the fire had escaped.
Okay, it's blowing smoke right over my house.
Yeah, it's about 5 acres and growing, so they've got crews on the way.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Bye.
Just 5 minutes after Ann Apple called 911, firefighters down at the scene were already talking possible evacuations.
But 2 hours, 18 minutes would pass before the order was made. Those up here on the ridge, unable to see the smoke, they were running out of time.
Jefferson County 911, where's your emergency?
Where is the fire?
It's south of Critchell, off of Kester Road. It's all south of you, off of Pleasant Park Road.
Oh my God, it's headed this way.
I don't know the direction of the fire.
Dispatchers had no clue where the fire was going.
This thing is off to the races.
30 to 50 miles per hour, headed for homes. Firefighters battled delays from the start, lost, looking for the fire, unsure how to get there.
Still unable to locate the access road.
On scene, scattered communication.
Right now, we're talking out here, and we don't have anybody that's going to kind of keep track of what's going on.
Flames were only moving faster. Escape, the only option, but the call to evacuate was delayed. Or never received at all.
Hello, this is 911. What are you reporting?
Please, we have fire up here at Kester Road, North Trail Circle.
Okay, yes, you guys are in an evacuation area. I need everybody to get out.
But you have to come now. We have a lot of fire.
Oh, no, we're there, ma'am. We're fighting that fire.
Fire crews were still struggling to mobilize.
If the resources aren't starting to get distributed, you know, we may start losing a whole lot of houses on the end of the road. 612, we're losing structures.
Andy Hoover watched his own home burn.
I'm in my driveway. The fire has burned through. My house may be burning. Yes, it is. God.
That's houses burn right there.
Less than an hour before he recorded this video, Doug Gulick was doing the same thing from his porch with his camera pointed to the sky.
That is frickin' ominous.
Doug's family loaded into 2 cars when the ashes started raining down. Their mother, Kim, was alone and leading the way out of the drive. Doug and the children were close behind. He handed the video camera to his son right before they turned the corner.
Daddy.
Their escape was guided by taillights momentarily turned brake lights when Kim considered turning around.
Where's Mom? What's she stopping for?
They had no time to stop. What sounded like a freight train was closing in.
Down there. It's down there now.
The sparks kept flying like tracers, red, orange, then the first hint of clear sky.
Jesus Christ.
It was just enough to see what was up ahead. On the right, mailboxes on the left.
Right here, right here.
Oh my gosh. Zuma!
It's okay. We're out.
A wall of fire, their freedom. Both came the moment they passed the road leading to Ann Apple's drive. As night set, Sam and Linda Lucas were dead. Ann Apple missing.
The confusion and chaos from day one leading to anger and outrage on day two. Why a meltdown in communications? And why the confusion with the orders to evacuate? Coming up, we investigate the problems and get answers.
Well, they were already calling for evacuations, and you called 911, and they told you to stop calling.
Exactly.
They had enough indicators they shouldn't have gone forward with this.
Telling me I'm sorry doesn't make a difference right now.
As the sun rose on day two of the fire, so did the anger.
Residents questioning decisions leading up to the prescribed fire, the evacuation process, and the fact that nobody was taking responsibility for what went wrong.
I think it's absolutely negligent. I think it was negligent from the very start.
They created a monster.
They created a monster. The monster got out of hand, and they're blaming the victims for not getting out of the way.
No warning, no time.
I saw people running. I thought I had time. This fire could not be stopped.
The questions began.
They can start a fire like this with no moisture predicted.
Really? These are the people we trust that they're supposed to know what they're doing?
The burn turned wildfire first ignited in the red zone.
They set up pretty darn close to where people were.
It's not like we're talking about one or two people. We're talking about an entire road that was overtaken by this. And I just think of all the places that you could have done a controlled burn at that time, wouldn't that be one of the riskiest?
The wind at over 80 miles an hour literally pushes the flames horizontally.
That was in the forecast. So why would you do a burn?
They walked away from a fire that wasn't put out. The winds came, kicked it up. It burned my house down, killed 3 people, and burned down all my neighbors' houses.
Wait or escape.
How could that happen? And nobody warned people up this way.
We continued to get the same comments from them. It's a 10-acre burn, it's a controlled burn, or it's only 10 acres, or there's crews arriving on scene.
I said, clearly you don't know where we are. Clearly you don't know where we are if you're telling me this. You're out of your mind.
And she said it was a prescribed burn. Don't worry. And look at.
It would be worse if Jim Chambers hadn't stayed behind. He never left, but not because of what he was told. He chose to.
But all the ambers were flying that way, and that's what started all the little spot fires everywhere. And I mean, it was pretty intense.
His sons snuck behind the fire line. Together they saved at least 6 homes. The Apple family home destroyed.
It's pretty heartbreaking when you look at him, you know.
All he could do was help Scott search for Ann.
When we came to look for his wife, that was, I mean, you know, he had that hope in his eye, and we had to go help him search and do what we could for him.
The concerns of homeowners exposing major errors. Our investigation uncovering communication meltdowns, emergency notification mistakes, and a delay in executing a timely evacuation.
As the smoke built, dozens called 911 looking for direction.
If there's any problem, big problems, don't you get a reverse 911 if they're worried?
Well, as long as anyone's registered their phone, they'll get it.
I'm just trying to figure out what our status is.
If you're going to be evacuated, they'll go door to door.
We would put out a notification if it's getting that bad.
We just thought if something was really bad, we would get a call.
The North Fork Fire Chief called for evacuations at 4:57 p.m. Jefferson County would send out the order 8 minutes later. But instead of the 130 homes in immediate danger receiving the notification, the Jefferson County Sheriff's Office admits it accidentally sent the alert to 20,000 numbers, some as far away as Broomfield. Realizing the mistake, the notification was stopped after 4,600 numbers. Those who got a text message saw mandatory evacuation notice, fire moving north towards Pleasant Park. That caused more people to call 911.
Okay, you should not have gotten that message. A lot of people got it in error. Looks like you got that evacuation notice in error, so you can disregard it.
The accurate reverse notification did not get sent out until 5:23 p.m.
Our neighbor said our house was burned by 5 o'clock, so I don't think that would have done us much good. But
a call was made to Patrick and Nancy Lansu, according to this data requested and reviewed by 7 News, but not until 6:24 p.m. Central Time. That's 5:24 here. What we found, of the 22 homes destroyed, only 7 received emergency warnings, none before 5:23 p.m. Some of the homes, including Scott and Ann Apples, never received a call because the system had their home mapped in Morrison, 13 miles away. We asked Jefferson County Sheriff Ted Mink about the errors. He told us the Jefferson County Emergency Communication Authority handled the contract with First Call, the reverse notification company.
We assume that they have done their due diligence with this company, no reason to doubt that, and that when we punch the button, it will work.
The county blamed First Call for not mapping homes in their correct location. First Call blamed the county for providing bad data.
What I want to emphasize is it's only a tool. It doesn't replace people's ability to react on their own should they feel threatened.
That's what doesn't sit well with these victims, who feel they're portrayed as helpless.
We all acted in poor judgment, all of us.
A question we heard over and over: why would these families leave based on the information dispatchers were providing? Small acreage, crews on scene, no evacuations.
The 911 operator was still not really, letting people know to get out.
But we've heard from families who did leave, and one who tried.
I know that she was getting ready to go because we talked about that. She had all her photos, all the things that were really valuable. She was getting those together and getting ready to head out.
No one knew for sure if Ann had gotten out. It wasn't until 8 p.m. before any emergency crews would come on this property and confirm the home had burned to the ground. Ann was missing.
In the days that followed, the search for Ann, X's mark, where crews searched for any sign of her. Their answer 5 days later, when they learned she never made it out of what's left of her home.
Errors in communication, far from the only thing to go wrong with the Lower North Fork fire. Coming up next, when the weather changed, why didn't the burn plan? And we uncover parts of the burn plan that were not even followed.
There's nobody that wants to take responsibility for what happened. Now we have 0 snow for this month. Maybe this burn can wait till next year.
This prescribed fire plan for the Lower North Fork area, it was created long before the burn ever started.
It lays out forecasting, ignition, and this plan if the fire were to escape.
But 7 News uncovered the State Forest Service didn't follow its own plan.
You have to be prepared for what's going to happen days ahead.
Were they prepared for what happened days ahead here?
I don't believe so.
Rich Schell is a former chief officer for the California Department of Forestry and Fire Protection. He has a history of studying fire planning, management, protection, and suppression dating back decades. Schell now works as an expert in post-wildfire analysis. He gets paid to break down what went right or wrong with wildfires. But he took on the Lower North Fork fire on his own time. We asked him to review hundreds of documents, dozens of photos from the governor's review and the burn plan.
This was a very high-risk prescribed burn.
But according to the lead expert appointed to the governor's review,
it was a professionally written plan. It was professionally implemented, albeit one mistake on a patrol on Sunday.
The plan called for 3 days of patrol, which should have included Sunday, March 25th.
I don't think it would have changed the outcome.
No patrol, no monitoring. Possible a lot of work could have been done on Sunday.
Being here Sunday would have mattered.
I believe so.
If you could classify that task force and that review, how would you classify it?
My word is soft. Let's be realistic here. Nobody wants to accept responsibility or be liable for this loss, the escape prescribed burn.
But there were warnings. In fact, the last burn in October of 2011 was canceled because the fire jumped the line. 5 months later, on Monday, March 26th, 2012, it escaped again. Only this time, they couldn't stop it.
Here in March, with the drought conditions, the burning conditions were much more extreme.
A red flag warning on Monday, high fire danger. That morning, the engine boss with 2 other men arrived on scene to pack up equipment.
I find it concerning that they brought a utility pickup out as opposed to a fire engine on a day that was going to be pretty extreme conditions.
What happened next, detailed in these documents obtained by 7 News. With hand tools and a dwindling supply of water, 3 men spent more than 1 hour chasing down spot fires, reigniting faster than they could put them out. At 1:40, they called for one engine from the State Forest Service. Less than 1 hour later, the lower North Fork burn declared an escaped fire. In an interview with investigators, the engine boss admitted to running out of water before help arrived. From a ridge, his crew stood and watched the fire burn. Unable to start suppression efforts, they were out of resources.
Water is the firefighter's best friend. They didn't have water. They had hand tools, and the spot fire quickly got away from them because they didn't have all the available resources, such as water, on site.
In your opinion, based on what you've reviewed, if someone did need to take responsibility in this situation, who would it be?
Oh, I think it has to go back to the people that did the prescribed burn.
However, the governor's review and the Jefferson County fire investigation name no blame.
It's just as hard to be here today as it was the first day we were allowed back.
No one involved in the burn has been disciplined. They still have their jobs. Nancy Lansue has no home.
This is an act of humans.
We didn't start the fire.
No.
Mother Nature didn't start the fire.
No.
The Colorado Forest Service started the fire, period.
Errors in communication, a burn plan not followed. So is anyone to blame for the lower North Fork fire? And why is the fire not considered a crime? Up next, we take those questions to the governor.
Who's been held accountable for the lower North Fork fire?
Look around, and somebody has to be responsible for this.
Who's to blame for the lower North Fork fire? Now, this is just a portion of the documents that 7 News has asked for. We have reports and reviews, burn plans, all of the dispatch audio. So far, the state and county investigations point the finger at no one.
This is either right or it's wrong. That's what I want to hear an answer to.
What were people thinking when they made that decision?
Look around, and somebody has to be responsible for this.
There's nobody that wants to take responsibility for what happened.
We've heard from the fire victims, our expert, even the sheriff. Now 7 News going straight to the governor for answers. Who's been held accountable for the lower North Fork fire?
Well, at this point, we're still working through the sequence and the facts.
Governor John Hickenlooper called for an independent review of the fire. It revealed some missteps, including not monitoring the burn for a required 3 days. Someone started the fire. 3 people died, 24 homes damaged or destroyed. No one was found to be criminally liable. No one's been fired. There's been no discipline. What kind of message does that send?
Well, it's a message that is very frustrating for people, and I understand that. Justice is slow. If mistakes were made, and you know, I'm not arguing that there weren't mistakes in this whole process, what's the appropriate discipline as a result of those mistakes?
Those people should be canned.
Oh, oops, sorry. Doesn't really cut it.
I asked the state's CEO if he plans to discipline anyone from the State Forest Service.
Let me be clear, they don't report to me, right? They report to Colorado State University. So I don't have authority to discipline anybody, but that's certainly concerning.
Can you make recommendations?
We certainly can make recommendations.
Do you plan on it?
Well, again, our goal is to get all the information, right? And not rush to judgment, and to make certain that we have heard and seen all sides of the issue. That being said, I suspect we will have some recommendations once we get all the information.
With all this damage, the governor and the state legislature now dealing with what's fair compensation.
And this can't be fixed by insurance, and people don't seem to understand the difference there. You can't insure land. You can't insure the beauty of the property.
Scott Apple lost his wife, his memories, and his home. He's left with charred acres, just like his neighbors. The state's liability, $600,000, divided among all victims.
If people think we should revisit that and raise the cap, I'm happy to lead that discussion.
For most families up here who lost everything, the lack of accountability is most upsetting.
Well, they believe if change is to come, it starts with someone taking responsibility. After we started asking questions, now the state is taking action. They've spent weeks opening up to us about their loss.
Now they're at the mercy of state lawmakers.
It's just devastating. We lost everything that we've ever worked for.
I can remember the love that went into all the things in that home.
But insurance can't replace dreams, memories, lives. It can't do that.
I keep hoping that, it's like a bad dream. I need to be able to trust that our elected officials will actually do the right thing.
One by one, the plea to convince elected representatives to support a bill that could possibly pay for this, and this, and this.
In the last 7 years, out of 175 prescribed burns in Colorado, only 2 had ever escaped. The destruction this one caused is new territory for the state. 2 investigations so far have danced around any blame. A third investigation by the U.S. Forest Service could take more than a year.
The whitewashes that we've seen so far don't cut it.
The way Colorado's law is written today, Lower North Fork fire victims will have to sue the state to try to collect any of just a portion of $600,000.
I had beauty, and now it's coals.
This was a life, a dream, and it's gone.
Lawmakers are trying to fast-track a bill to allow victims to bypass the courts and file claims with the legislature without a dollar limit. The Attorney General's office questions if it violates the state's constitution.
To think that the state could get away with killing people and burning down our homes and not be penalized is horrifying.
It'll be months before we know how much the state will pay for 4,140 acres, 22 homes. But we know today that no one can put a price on the lives lost. Sam Lucas, Linda Lucas, Ann Apple.
March 26, 2012, I think Colorado lost one of its greatest women. Rest in peace, Ann Apple, rest in peace.
The Lower North Fork fire was a tragedy that killed 3 people and destroyed 22 homes.
No one caused it on purpose. There is no one person to be blamed. However, our continued investigation is revealing mistakes, some made months before the burn ever started.
As the state continues to investigate what went wrong, so will we. We want to thank the North Fork community for all its help and all the firefighters who worked so hard to battle that fire.
Thanks for watching.